Hello class, this is a lecture on two different techniques for controlling loops in chapter 4. So the first one is that you would use the first technique for when you know for sure how many times you would like to loop through a particular series or how many times you want a loop to occur. So I have an example here, and it starts out simply by taking input from the user and is requesting a start number and an end number. So hopefully you've read chapter 4 and you've read about the keyword for and also range. If not, I would recommend pausing the video and reading chapter 4 section 3 that discusses the for loop. So in this case, what you will read about, and I will just show you what happens here when I run this. So in our starting number, let's say 5, ending number 10. So what this loop will do is it will take this range, pretty much tells it how many times it needs to loop through the interval from 5 to 10. So as you see, it printed out all the numbers in between 5 and 10, except it did not include 10. So this variable number will actually take the value, a new value, each time it loops through. So the first time it's 5, and it printed a 5. The second time it loops through a 6. The third time is 7, and so on. One thing to notice is that this range keyword does not include that last value. So in our scenario, the last value was 10. Notice it did not print out a 10. So if you want to include that, we can do that. We can just say n plus 1. And if I run that, same way, 5, 10, you will see it now includes 10. And you can do any number of things that you want within this loop. So let's say we want to find out the square of all these numbers. And we can do that by using our exponent. The two asterisks tells Python that we want to raise the value number to the power of 2. So now I have a new variable that represents the square of each number. Let's try that. And there we go. So now I have, remember the comma in the print statement always inserts a space. So now I have the original number with its square right next to it. Okay, so that's one example. I'm going to comment out this first part and move down to the second part. So the second loop uses a while loop, and it uses something called a sentinel. A sentinel is a value, or is a variable that the loop checks each time it goes through a new iteration of the loop. And sentinels is covered in chapter 4 section 5. So if you haven't read that, I recommend you pause the video and go read through that. So in this scenario, we start out with a variable called number. We're setting it equal to 0. And this while loop has a condition. Each time the loop is executed, it will always check if the condition is still true before it executes again. So this while loop is going to execute while the number is not equal to -1. So in this scenario, number is our sentinel because it is being used to control the while loop. So this loop is pretty simple. What we are doing is setting a new value to number, and that is from a user input. And pretty much this does the same thing. It's finding squares of a number, but it has a little extra data, or a little extra info for the user. It tells the user that if whenever they want to stop, they should enter a -1, and the loop will terminate. So there's some code here, I forgot. So in this case, if the user enters -1, we know the user wants this program to stop, so we don't want to square that number. So I need to add just a little bit. If number does not equal -1, then let's actually print the square. So now if, let's just run this and see if this works. Okay, actually I'm going to clear out this shell. So it's cleared. Okay, brand new shell. Enter number to square, -1 to stop. Let's enter 5, enter. There we go. So we squared 5 and we got 25. And since we're in a while loop, number is now equal to 5. And whenever it started over, it checked. It said, is number not equal to -1? And that's true. 5 does not equal -1. So it's going to continue and it's going to stop right here and wait for input from the user. So let's try again. 25, there's a square. And you can enter. Python has a pretty large number set. You can enter a really big number and have it square that. So let's say I want to stop. Now I need to enter -1. When I do that, number will be -1 as it executes the items inside the while loop. It will check, is number not equal to -1? Well, actually -1 does equal -1. So this will not happen. It will check the value up here. Does number not equal -1? Well, it actually does. So that means the while loop finishes, and so does the program. So when I hit enter, the program finishes. And it might actually be neat just to prove to you that we actually made it out of the while loop. So remember, Python is very tricky with the indents. So whatever I want to happen inside of this while loop after the colon needs to be indented over a 1. As soon as something is not indented and it's lined up exactly with the while, it means this print does not exist in this while loop. So this print will not happen until the while loop finishes. So let's try that. Do our same thing. Notice how program finishes has not printed. We're still in the while loop. So let's enter -1. That will exit the while loop. And then we got what we wanted. It printed, program finishes. So this is a basic way to control loops. If you're looking through the chapter, we're starting to get a little more complicated. So if you're looking through the chapter and you have questions or want to see a problem worked out with a video, don't hesitate to reach out and ask me, and I will do that. Thank you.